We continue our Reopening DC series, where our Washington correspondent Matt Knadler is highlighting how some of the top tourist spots in the nation's capital are handling the pandemic. And today, he takes us to one of the region's newest sites, the National Museum of the U.S. Army.
The National Museum of the United States Army was originally set to open its doors in June 2020. But of course, the pandemic shifted everything around, forcing the D.C. area's newest museum to open later than expected last Veterans Day. Now, after rising cases closed the museum last December, they are back open full-time.
We're really excited to be able to open our doors not only to our veterans and currently serving soldiers, but to the American public.
Once inside, visitors will learn more about the Army's 245-year history and its role in the nation's history, from the Revolutionary War to the War on Terrorism. The museum is laid out almost like a mall where you can do a little window shopping of sorts to see what interests you before you head in and check out the full exhibit. Susan Smullen, the museum's public affairs officer, tells me that was intentional.
It's a really wonderful way that if you only have enough time to walk the concourse, you'll still feel like you've been able to explore what the museum would offer in that historic timeline.
The National Museum of the U.S. Army is more than just artifacts, and there are some pretty noteworthy items in there as well, like this Vietnam-era Huey helicopter or weapons from colonial militias. But curators here make the experience more personal by sharing soldiers' stories along the way. Visitors can actually begin reading a veteran's profile outside of the complex.
Now you know who carried that artifact, where that artifact had been, and what it had experienced with that soldier as a part of history.
A lot of the exhibits at the museum are also very interactive. For example, you have this sliding display, this monitor, that will tell you each artifact behind the glass and the history of it.
So there's a little bit of something for everyone, depending on the type of visitor and the visitor experience that you would like to have.
The museum itself is located near an Army base, Fort Belvoir in Virginia, about 15 miles outside of Washington, D.C. And a bit of a fun fact, the Army is the oldest branch of the military, but it's the last branch to have its own museum. It gives longtime visitors to D.C. a chance to see something new, and for everyone to learn more about the men and women in uniform.
Army history is America's history. The Army was here at the birth of our nation.
In Fort Belvoir, Virginia, Matt Knadler reporting.